Hey everybody, we are back today with Brandy of Brandy Borough Astrology to talk about the Elisa Lam case. This happened in 2013. Weird fucking case. Definitely wanted to at some point look at the astrology surrounding this. So we're going to do this today. A little bit of background about the case. Elisa Lam was from Canada, traveled down here to the US to Los Angeles, checked into the Cecil Hotel on January 26th of 2013. This hotel has a famous, or maybe a better way to say that would be infamous or notorious reputation for some people that have stayed there in the past, called it home, people that have died there, things of that nature. But it is an affordable place to, or was an affordable place to stay. I think it's actually housing now. So it makes sense why somebody who maybe didn't come from the area might wind up there, because it seems like it's a cheap place to stay, an affordable place to stay, not familiar with the area or whatever. So she checks in on January 26th of 2013. The last time she is seen is in the hotel on January 31st of 2013 in an elevator, and footage from an elevator video, which is bizarre. The video is bizarre. For those of you that have seen it, you know what we're talking about. If not, you can find it online. It's fueled a lot of things like conspiracy theories and all kinds of, and like we were talking about earlier, woo shit.
Yeah. Were there ghosts? Were there entities? I've heard so much discussion around, because the video is kind of weird. And if it is from memory, I believe it's kind of choppy, and like there was interference going on with it too. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, there is interference with it. I believe it was also sped up in places, which is kind of weird. And I believe there was a minute cut from the footage, which is also weird, which has also been a cause of this fueling of, like, why was this footage cut? Why was this minute cut out or whatever, So she, this is the last time she's seen. She contacts her parents every night while she's been gone. I guess she doesn't contact them on January 31st though. And then I believe they're the ones that report her missing on February 1st. Then on February 19th of 2023, she is found in one of the hotel's water tanks, without her clothes on, after the hotel guests were complaining of low water pressure and of the taste of the water, which kind of,
Yes, the taste, there was a odor to the water, from what I understand. The taste was off, and there was a discoloration. Yeah. And so hotel guests were drinking the water. I think like a lot of hotels were instructed that you could drink the tap water. And so they're using this water to drink and brushing their teeth with it, showering, and yeah. That led them to look into what's going on with the water and the discovery
of her body.
Yes.
And it's, the way, there was also a lot of speculation about how she got in there in the first place. I think by now they've kind of settled on the fact that it was probably a fire escape that she climbed up. That I'm not 100% sure on that, but it does seem like that, that was 10 years ago now. It does seem like now that's kind of been figured out, that that's probably how she got up on the roof in the first place. And then there was also some question about how she would climb up on the tanks, and even how she would get the lid shut. But also from what I've read, it seems like the lid was not shut when she was found. It was actually open. So there were a lot of things about this case that people had a lot of questions about, what the fuck is going on? So wanted to check out the astrology of it. So should we Should we look at the chart?
Let's do it. And I'm going from memory, but I do believe this hotel is downtown LA near Skid Row. It's in an area that's, yeah, not as safe, not as desirable.
Yeah. It's part of it's part of that. Or it was first the Cecil Hotel, then they rebranded it to be the Stay on Main, which I think is what it was called at the time that she was there. But then everybody still called it, I think, the Cecil Hotel. So the rebranding really didn't take off. I think now it's actually affordable housing.
I think so.
I don't know what it's called, but I'm thinking, all I gotta say is with this, you have fucking Richard Ramirez who stayed there. He would go there supposedly after he would go kill people. Another one, I can't remember his name. It started with a U though. His last name started with a U. I'm drawing a blank, but there was another killer that stayed there. There are several other suicides, deaths, things like that.
There are.
I fucking hope that if people are living there, that they fucking salted the land around it, that they fucking saged the shit out of that fucker. Seriously, because that place, I would imagine, has some really funky ass energy.
Yes. And we'll probably get into this discussion. If the place is energetically off and you have some sensitivities or even some maybe medical conditions, it can affect a person very intensely.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. Can you see this? Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Now I've seen 2 times, because it's very hard to, but they're very close together. So I just pulled the 2:31. The last time one of the times that I found was 2:30 p.m. on January 31st of 2013 of her in the elevator. Then I found another thing that said 2:57, but I have both if you want to look, but they're pretty similar.
Okay.
And because that footage kind of it's hard to make out what the hell it says. Exactly. But yeah, this is the one that I seem to see the most, the 2:30 p.m. time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a good chart. You got the sun in the 8th house, the ruler, Elisa, would be the moon here in the 4th of ending. So this seems like an accurate chart.
It does. One of the big questions with this case, and even a question that people seem to still have to this day, is was she killed and put in there, or was this an accident or a suicide kind of thing? And I've got to tell you, in this chart, I mean, the moon being her makes no aspect with Saturn being what would be a perpetrator.
Yeah. And they're in signs that are next to each other, Libra, moon, and then a Scorpio, Saturn. They're not seeing each other either.
Yes. Yeah. There's that aversion going on where, they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it in this chart, I guess there's something that if we're looking like, hey, is there a perpetrator? I would pay attention to the Pluto in the 7th house, but yeah, the ruler of the 7th, not making aspect with the moon. It just doesn't seem like outside involvement.
No, it doesn't. And even with Scorpio, like being intercepted in the 5th, them flowing into Pluto, it almost feels like her expression could have been the quote enemy here. I don't know a nicer way to put that, but that's kind of, you know what I mean?
I do. And there's something else kind of interesting about that too. 5th house is where there is some element of exploration with 5th house and adventure and taking risks. And so kind of makes me, self-expression, or maybe, hey, like not curiosity, but like exploration, like.
Yeah. Or even like you mentioned, risk, like, like perhaps. Yeah. And it's almost like with that intercepted, it's like, perhaps it's like it makes me think of a risk maybe you shouldn't take.
Yeah, it reminds me, kind of a side note, has nothing to do with this, but like rock climbers, like serious rock climbers, ones who go and hike those big old rocks without the safety gear, you know what I'm talking about? They're usually Leos. They usually have that fit, or have fifth house stelliums. So it kind of, in a way, reminds me of that kind of energy.
Oh no, yeah. When I see people do that, I'm like, holy shit. Holy shit.
Holy shit. They're usually Leos.
Yeah, that's
destructible, right?
You have to have some massive fucking balls to do that. Like,
maybe not the exact same thing here, but it just kind of reminds me of that little, like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, this could be dangerous, but taking a risk and kind of exploring anyway, or
yeah. Her, bringing up risks, right? Now there is something to bring into the equation here. She did have bipolar. She was bipolar. I can't remember which. I think it was her sister that verified this, that she was. And there is if you're in an episode, a manic episode, there is a risk-taking thing to. If you're in a manic episode, you might take more risks than you would if you were not.
Yes.
And I have some questions about if that may have been what was going on here when she passed, or when she went missing, and why she passed, or what are the contributing factors to why she passed. I mean, you've got that fourth house, right, with Virgo on the cusp. It's going into, Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. Mercury's in the 8th house. It's in Aquarius. 8th house is so psychological. Aquarius, to me, feels, talking about weird mental psychology shit going on. Mm-hmm. And again, there's probably a better way for me to put that, but something perhaps a little more erratic about.
Yeah, and the 4th house being in Virgo alone, the sign that rules health, kind of like points that direction as well. And then you got like the 6th house. If you look at the 6th house, which would be health type issues, being ruled by that Jupiter and a detriment in the 12th.
Yeah.
Plus, like you said, the Mercury in Aquarius, like this does have a lot of markers for someone having some health issues, and we know she had some mental health issues that required daily medication and control.
Daily medication that she was, if because the autopsy is online, and she was prescribed 5 different psychiatric meds, and only, I believe, 2 of them were found in her system. I'm looking at my notes. Now 2 of them were found in her system. Effexor, which is an antidepressant, and Wellbutrin, which is also, it's an atypical antidepressant. Those 2 were found in her system, but the antipsychotic that she was on was not. The mood stabilizer was, but in such small quantities that it didn't appear that she had taken it like
recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of those, I'm not a doctor or a pharmacist, but these medicines have like half-lives, and like, some take longer than others to get out of your system. So some of the medications are not found in her system. And from what you're saying, another one was in such a small dose, it probably wasn't taken recently before her passing.
Yes. Or yeah, because my understanding is these are a daily, like a daily thing. And yeah, I'm thinking the ones that would have stabilized and they weren't taken. And also my understanding is that when you take, regular, like, SSRI or whatever antidepressants, and you have bipolar and there's not the other stabilizer there or something, it can actually make like the manic stuff worse.
Yes, it can go the other way, right?
So looking at that and then looking at this, at the chart, it does make me think that this, when she was last seen, she was having a mental health episode.
Yeah, I agree. This chart has many markers saying there's a health issue going on here. Yeah.
It's like a crisis of.
Yeah.
Should we take a look at the at when she was found?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me hope I pull the right chart. I have a problem sometimes doing that. Okay. So this is when she was found, on February 19th of 2013 at 10 a.m. in Los Angeles.
I find that Pisces stellium, I know it's in the 11th house, but it's just interesting because of all the mystery in this case, and her being found when that huge Pisces stellium is there towards the top of the chart. It makes sense.
It does. And I mean, that found in water, and even that stellium being like intercepted, it adds more mystery. There's more mystery to it.
Yeah, the sky doesn't lie. So, hey, here's what's going to happen with this case. There's going to be tons of mystery, and not everybody's going to believe the outcome here. So
what's interesting is what I also think is interesting in this, like in this chart, the rulers from the last chart, the moon and Saturn, they still make no contact. Mm-mm. Even the rulers of the first and the seventh in this chart make no contact. And what's even weirder is we could be using two rulers for the seventh, and Venus doesn't touch either one of them.
Yeah. So this is kind of a independent thing. Like there's not another person involved. It just seems like a tragedy, really.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though, just because I'm with the 10th house in Capricorn in this chart, with Saturn conjunct like the descendant. Mm-hmm. And in the other one, you had like the Pisces midheaven and Jupiter in the 12th.
Right.
Do you think there is anything that hasn't been said about it, or said about the case, or even that the hotel didn't give up?
I don't know. Just kind of looking at this chart alone with the 10th house ruler of Saturn being there in the 6th, almost in the 7th. Just another, like being in the 6th house makes me think, oh yeah, that's pointing towards a health issue again, or something like this. I think the mystery, or what's not, I don't think there's anything missing.
Okay.
I think this is just kind of, like just response to this, like not conspiracy, but bringing in just like the elevator footage, kind of paranormal type stuff. Like this is kind of what this, like esoteric type subjects, or is there hidden stuff happening that we don't know about? Is it the energy of this building? And I think there is an issue with the energy of the building.
I would
I don't know, no, I don't think a demon or a ghost like lured her to the top of that building or anything like that. But I do think people could be sensitive to energy, and maybe this wasn't a healthy place for her. I don't know.
I think that's very, very possible. Yeah, because anybody that has any kind, as somebody who struggled with other sorts of mental health things throughout my life, I know that if I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I'll be very I will be more sensitive to other things that I maybe can't see or can, you know what I mean? That, so I can only imagine for that being the case for somebody who did seem like they were having some sort of mental health crisis.
Yeah.
Really, it sounds like she could have been going through something as soon as she checked in. She was originally put in what was kind of described as like a hostel kind of room with like roommates. And then she was moved to her own room because the roommate said she was acting strange.
Right.
So it's, if there is funky energy in that place, and I would imagine that there is, if she was already having some kind of an issue, I'm sure it just made it worse.
Yes. It amazes me. I mean, she's an adult, but the fact that she had to check in with family every day because they knew there was a fragility or, that her health needed to be monitored. It just amazes me that she was traveling alone.
Yeah. Because travel in and of itself can be a trigger for, that's not to say that people that have, mental health differences shouldn't travel, but that can
Right.
be a trigger,
Right.
Especially she was alone too, there was no, there's no support there with her if she needed
For
it.
her case specifically, it was just kind of, because I know her family had to check in on her, and when they didn't hear from her, knew immediately something was wrong, and it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if perhaps the travel in and of itself could have been like the start of some kind of an episode. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you got all sorts of things in travel. You got jet lag, you got exhaustion, you've got, maybe anxieties, all sorts of things that come up in travel. And
Yeah.
What now, getting back to the question you asked me, what do you think about the Pisces and the Scorpio? And do you think there's things being withheld or not being said or maybe hidden?
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't think I don't know. I don't really know necessarily what the reason would be. I mean, there's already so much weird shit out there. It's about this. It's kind of like, I don't, I'm almost inclined though, and this is kind of more intuition than anything, but if it were if something were being kept, actually don't think it's police. I actually think it would be the hotel. For some I don't
for
know.
Liability or PR reasons.
Maybe, even though you would actually think with the reason why some people probably go to this, because people like to go see where famous places where deaths happen and things like, so really it almost seems like it could be a quote good thing PR wise for him, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they're like behind it or anything. I think this was, so I don't really know why, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah. I do. Just kind of chewing on what you're just saying. I do wonder if I'm trying to be careful with how I say this. I'm not, because this is just me thinking out loud. Were there some weaknesses in the hotel? I don't know, should certain people not have had access? Of course, it's fire escape. Got to have access to fire escape, or the water tanks. Could there have been more caution taken? Of course, you don't know to prevent these things till they happen sometimes. So,
yeah. Well, and also here's something that I've heard. Also, you bringing that up. Here's something that I've heard. I don't know how accurate it is, but I've heard that there were hotel parties on the roof that I don't think were necessarily really supposed to happen, but kind of like they let them, I could be wrong about this. This is what I've read though, a few different places that they were kind of like, they turned a blind eye to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, I don't know if that plays in at all. Again, I really think that this was a terrible, tragic accident that she did to herself. But I wonder if something about that could play in some way, like if there was anything not being said, if it has something to do with that. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe not rule it out, but the charts do say, hey, there's some things going on with our victim here, or that. Yeah. I just keep seeing the health stuff come up.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that if the hotel were to have been hiding anything, it's something else that kind of has to do with this, but I don't think it's actually directly. I don't think it's like they're hiding somebody that did this to her or anything.
Agreed. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to mention about?
I'm just looking at that nodal axis so close
to
the ascendant, I'm trying to think, okay, what do I make of this? And I don't really know what to make of it, but it does get my attention. That's why I'm sitting there studying, like, I will say this, with the North Node being so close to the ascendant, if it was the South Node, I would be like, something's kind of weird here. But with the North Node there, I feel like that's almost a marker of some sort of clarity, like the way the case is ruled is probably accurate.
Yeah, you talk about the North Node in Scorpio.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm looking at this backwards. Oh my God, Mercury retrograde moment for Brandy over here. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I should go with what I said, with the South Node on the ascendant, some kind of spiraling down. Maybe there is some weirdness. What do you think?
Well, I actually really hadn't looked at that until you brought this up. But then also that like that Venus is also okay. That Venus is also
squared.
It's squaring it, right? Venus rules Taurus. Now, in a natal chart, right? If you're looking at a natal chart, the nodal axis, you got to square to the nodes. If that square to the nodes happens to be the planetary ruler of the South Node, you can generally think that from a past life, whatever, the person maybe had a hand in why that planet is a skip step or a square to the nodes,
mm-hmm.
which kind of makes me think in a case like this is somebody maybe having a hand in, you know what I mean? Like having their own hand in this.
Right. With the South Node being a spiraling down for the victim themselves. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Brandy went.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was following. I wanted to make sure that I was following, but no. Yeah. You're fine. It happens. That's like that time that I was talking about squares to some chart that didn't even exist. And I was.
And then there was a time I was messaging you at midnight because the math wasn't working out. And I realized I was looking at Virgo as Scorpio. So like I get flips like that too sometimes.
Oh God, I do that. I do that with those two. I always have to remember Scorpio's little tail.
The tail.
And Virgo does a little curve thing.
Because they both have like the M looking thing. And sometimes if it's late. Yeah. It happens.
It would be interesting, and I don't think that I couldn't really find it, but I haven't, like, her chart would be interesting to look at.
Yeah,
I couldn't find anything with a time, but
yeah, I couldn't. What I do find interesting, because there was a great documentary about this. I want to say it was a Netflix one. It's really kind of sweet. Like a lot of people actually go and visit her grave.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, like the people who kind of follow this case, like the internet sleuths and just those kind of searching for the truth. I thought it was sweet. I guess she gets a lot of visitors paying respects to her. So that really is. Where's she buried? I want to say in Canada. I want to say in her hometown, I think.
That would, yeah, that would make sense. That's sweet though, that people
care what happened to her and her story, and yeah, it's just tragic. It's sad. It's unfortunate.
It is. It really is. It is.
Yeah, but interesting astrology. I'm glad you wanted to get together and look at this on your channel. It's definitely interesting chart, and yeah, to me, it kind of forensically looking at this closes out a lot of the conspiracy theories, or kind of the different theories of what happened to her. But
yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, if there's any woo shit going on, because there are a lot of people that think that it was and I mean, that's your right to think it's a ghost or whatever, but if there was any like spirit stuff, it's more just like the energy of that hotel being funky and fucking having fucked with her or something.
Totally. And energy of a land can, I don't know, depending on your beliefs, but it can like attract or have common tragedies. So like the land, I know when I'm embarrassed to say, but I did go when I was in California and visited the area where some of the Manson murders happened out of curiosity.
Yeah.
And the house where Sharon Tate was murdered, but we got as close as we could. It's gated off. But as a medium, when I was there, I was picking up, I was like, something's weird with this land. I was like, I didn't know the history of it besides the Manson murders. And I was like, there's something tied to this land that's weird. I don't feel like the only murders were the Manson murder, or I shouldn't say the Manson murders, but of Sharon Tate and everyone there. But I was like, I feel like something else has happened to this or on this property. And after I got back home, I did some research, and sure enough, there were suicides in the 1920s. There were I think there was another murder on that land. And so the energy of land can bring about fuckery.
Yeah. And if it's not ever, I would imagine, properly like cleansed or it'll just attract more fucky shit to happen.
Yes. Well put. Yes. And that's where I get woo-woo, but I do believe like energy is a thing, and absolutely it can be kind of sometimes historically researched with these places. You can find, even with that hotel, like serial killers were there, and murders, suicides. So
I mean, like, it's serial killers actively doing their bullshit, like not in the hotel, but they would do their bullshit and go back to the hotel. So there's funky. I will say this: the hotel I'll link the Wikipedia. Just if y'all aren't familiar, it is interesting, just the history in general of it. But yeah,
for sure.
Well, it was good having you back. Thank you for wanting to do this.
Thank you for having me and continuing to have me. It's always like something I really look forward to discussing. So I appreciate
Same here. It is like one of the highlights of my week. Truly, it is. I love doing this shit.
Good stuff.
Where can you be found?
BrandyBorrowAstrology.com and Brandy Borough Astrology on YouTube and Instagram. And Ellie, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Let's F with Astrology. You can find me on Instagram at Saturn Season Astrology, and you can find me on my website, SaturnSeason.com.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I guess until next time.
Until next time, guys. Thank you, Ellie.